Good morning and a warm welcome to this week's edition of the Dialogue on Soul TV. My name is Prince Apollo. It is that time we reflect on the big events that transpired within the week. Welcome aboard. Thank you so much for watching. Those watching from within and outside Uganda. And we'll be now specifically looking at the big story, which is the continued detention of retired Colonel Dr. Besigye'S, but also relating on how this week he was brought to a civil court, and fresh charges preferred against him. But of course, also looking at the dynamics around this whole case against retired Colonel Besigye alongside Haji Obed Lutale and Captain Dennis Ola. Well, Dr. Besigye still frail, was wheeled in the Nakawa Magistrates Court. Fresh charges of misprision of treason preferred against him, but also we will be looking at what is coming out of the NRM Parliamentary Caucus at State House in Entebbe, where NRM parliamentarians were putting together proposals to amend the UPDF Act, which constitutes the court martial. And still questions arise on the health of retired Colonel Dr. Besigye, still in incarceration. The opinions from the head of state in that statement, which he released this week, somehow the head of state saying that the retired Colonel Dr. Besigye's hunger strike was a form of blackmail. But again, the head of state insists that Colonel Besigye, retired Besigye, still has a case to answer. Well, the president says the question should be what exactly is the case with Besigye, and the answer is quick trial. On the show this morning, I have Comrade Rugarama Daniel. Dr. Rugarama is a Pan-Africanist, but also a lawyer, and the chairman of the Pan-Africanist movement. I think so. Speak to our viewers and we'll kick off the big show.
Good morning, dear brothers and sisters, from wherever you may be watching us from. It is always a pleasure being hosted here. This is home away from home.
Sure. Alongside Comrade Rugarama, I have also Muchibi Paul. And Counsel Muchibi Paul is an advocate, but also a lecturer of law at Makerere University Law Development Center. Speak to our viewers.
Thank you, Apollo. Good morning, viewers. Good morning, listeners of Soul TV. Once again, let me also join my colleague to thank the management of Soul TV for hosting us here to have this discussion, dialogue on matters that are happening in the country, which really are testing the rule of law in this country.
Sure.
I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. I will be joined by Richard Baguma, Tinkasimire, communication expert. But let's now kick off the show. Like I said, the questions still arise on the health of retired Colonel Dr. Besigye, who is still in incarceration. But as we move on, we'll be interrogating some of the some areas in this debate, especially now that Dr. Besigye's case has been moved to a civil court. We ask whether Kizza Besigye has finally received justice or not. But also, we'll be asking whether this is the end of civilians being tried in court martial or not. And again, we ask what lies ahead for the military courts. And Muchibi, you will kick off the discussion this morning. You being a senior lawyer, quickly, can you tell us, having Dr. Besigye now in the civil court and looking back at the time this issue has spent, I mean, in public discourse, the fight that the advocates of Kizza Besigye have put, have put in, can we now say it is justice for Dr. Besigye?
Okay, thank you so much. Allow me to start with the Supreme Court decision in Michael Kazva's Guruka and Attorney General. That is matter began in the Constitutional Court, where Michael Kavazuruka was a petitioner against the AG. And Michael Kavazuruka succeeded. Then the AG appealed to the Supreme Court. Whereas you are mindful that we made a lot of noise to have that judgment amid several trials of civilians in the court martial, the Supreme Court final on 31st January delivered its verdict. We were excited for one reason, that at least it pronounced itself on the unconstitutionality of the court martial trying civilians. Actually, the public should also know that the decision does not only stop on civilians, it even has servicemen, whereby it is saying that its composition lacks the mandate to adjudicate natural justice on even servicemen. So it also concerned servicemen. And the ultimate effect of the decision is that the court martial, as it stood by 31st January, was declared unconstitutional. My problem, with due respect to the decision of the court, is to declare something unconstitutional, then at the same time you contradict yourselves and saying, what he has been doing, let it go to the civil courts. That is totally contradictory. And we wouldn't expect such from an apex court. Once something is unconstitutional, it is null and void. It ceases. It ought to have stopped there. Whoever has been being tried in the court martial, whoever has been having a challenge of a decision of a court martial, that ends the story. Those who are serving ought to be released. It even ought to have issued a decree to have them released. Now, that has been now the ongoing controversy. You see, the Attorney General also had to write to this court, the Supreme Court, saying that they want advice on how to implement its orders. Because once orders are ambiguous, you start getting this kind of conflicts. Then at the same time, the respondent, who was Michael Kavazuruka's legal team, as well as those representing people being tried in the court martial, are saying that the decision is clear. The court martial has been declared unconstitutional. So, on what grounds are you holding these people in prison? They have no valid warrant. They are not reporting to any court. Then the argument is coming that the Supreme Court recommended that they be transferred to civil courts. I think that was a very, very big mistake. But that can only be cured by way of a review, filing a review to the court to review its decision. But the question would be, what independence has the court now? After the verdict, you have seen a lot of political sentiments coming up from the head of state saying that the court was wrong. Now is the court blaming, is the head of state blaming court? The CDF coming up and say its decision is wrong, telling the court members that you have to apologize. So do you expect that court to stand independent anymore amidst all these political attacks and threats? That is the biggest question. If you are to risk taking a review to the same court, that will be something very problematic. Away from that, the state has been now under a lot of panic on what to do next. Because the state was found at a crossroads, it wants to maintain the court martial. The decision is saying it is unconstitutional. But the decision is telling it, unless you do A, B, C, D. So it is giving it also a leeway. So the Supreme Court is giving and taking away. You are saying the court is unconstitutional, but you can amend the law and bring it in within the ambit of the what?
Yeah.
The law. And the state is using that loophole in the decision to say that now let's have proposals for the amendment of the UPDF what? Act. And this is being done very fast. You've seen, as you mentioned in the preamble, yesterday the NRM caucus resolved the same to have the act. And before the decision of the Supreme Court, there was already an amendment tabled on the floor of Parliament. It was coming for the second reading. And the focus then was to cure the challenge from Captain Ogwang's decision in the Supreme Court. Captain Ogwang had sued the Attorney General, had appealed to the Supreme Court on account that he was appealing against the decision of the Court of Appeal, which was also a decision arising from that of the Court Martial Appellate Court. And the Supreme Court said that there's no right of appeal under the UPDF Act from Court Martial Appellate Court to the civil courts. So the Supreme Court had made that, which was a very, very, very terrible verdict.
Yeah.
And it brought loopholes in the UPDF Act. So there was a rush to have it amended so that they can cure that loophole. Now, as they are trying to do the amendment, the Supreme Court in Kawazuko also comes up, which really killed that amendment. It had to be withdrawn and taken back to address these issues. So overall, what you are saying is that there's already a gap.
Kizza Besigye finally received justice?
I don't think so, and I wouldn't say that he has received justice for two reasons. One, the DPP yesterday, the spokesperson to the DPP told us that they received the file on February 11th to investigate, because the question was, how do you transfer a file investigated by the military forces to a civil court? Whereas civil courts also have their own procedure. How communal proceedings are commenced by reporting a case to police, police investigates, etc. This thing started with an abduction from Kenya. So how is police going to handle the other file and take it to the DPP? So the spokesman was telling us yesterday that they received the file. How they received the file, I don't know much, because we haven't gotten disclosure to know how everything was done. How police investigated from 11th February to yesterday, which was 21st, to have Besigye now produced in the civil court to be charged is another issue. And by the way, the main charge is treason. That is the misprision of treason is an alternative charge, which was put there. And when you look at the particulars of the offense, they are talking about issues like in Athens, in Switzerland, in Nairobi, in Kampala. So a series of countries have been mentioned where he has been uttering statements, and there are of course a lot of questions too as to whether utterances amount to treasonous in nature. Those are all issues to say. In my view, I haven't seen any justice. First of all, the first thing for the courts to track, there was a habeas corpus application which came to the Civil Division of High Court early this week. And if you look at the events, they can easily tell the games being played. First of all, it was a tug of war to fix that application. The court gave it 25th February, which has not even reached. It was to be next week.
The ruling is still pending.
Before the ruling, they had given 25th February to hear the application of habeas corpus. Now, before the close of the day, when they fixed 25th, after some dialogue, they changed the date even without the knowledge of the lawyers of Besigye and Aaron Chiza, who were applying. And they changed the date from 25th and brought it to the following day, 19th. You get it? Now, that already... The hearing of the habeas application, that to us already communicated the gameplay. But now these people are going to be brought because they have no valid warrants. They want to produce them to court to validate the warrants, take them back. Then before the due date for the ruling of the habeas corpus application, you will see them being taken to civil court for charges.
Which actually happened.
It happened.
Now you talk about the ambiguity of the Supreme Court's ruling, possibly causing distractions and all that. But from how the state has responded, taking Kizza Besigye back, to a civil court, preferring fresh charges, isn't that in one way justice? Or what can you, in just 1-2 statements, speak about the response of the state?
My view, the first,
Hasn't the state responded accordingly?
no. My view, the first thing to be done after the Supreme Court decision was to release.
Oh.
Release all the, not by the way,
Even when there was no order for release?
the interpretation, once
The
something is
application of
unconstitutional,
habeas corpus.
is null and void. And that's why they helped court by making an application for habeas corpus to make it release. Then if there are any other lawful charges, commence them.
Thank you. Paul Muchibi is an advocate and also a lecturer of law at Makerere University Law Development Center. I am pleased to have Richard Baguma now in his seat. Speak to our viewers, comrade.
As always, God first. I believe that there is a power that enables us to be here. We have no control over oxygen. We get free. So I first thank God for enabling us to be here, enabling me to, after a couple of misses, to come back. And I thank the viewers. Yesterday, I thought I was having a quiet time. And then somebody went past, looked at me, then he came back. I said, I see you. And I said, here we go again.
And they see you here.
Yeah.
Oh.
So then I asked them, usually because of being on multiple platforms, I said, where? And then he told me. I forgot to ask him his name because I like thanking them for watching us. But all those people watching us, thank you very much. Thank you for patronizing us, for spending time with us. And you, Apollo, and your team and your bosses for keeping this going.
Thank you.
Paulo here and the
Comrade Rugarama.
and the Daniel. It's nice to be on the panel with you.
Sure.
As the part of the reasons I was keeping away from all the shows, not just this one, all my weekly shows. Is,
did you just keep away?
Yeah, part that I was keeping away because there is the Besigye'Ization of talk shows.
Oh.
Yeah, and I was thinking.
And you find
what else am I going to say?
Okay.
Because I've talked about this every week on more than 3 shows every week.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Richard Baguma is a communication expert and a strong advocate for proper nutrition, but also an advocate for safe driving. Is it safe driving or safety on roads?
Yeah. So it's just that, please, eat well, avoid tobacco, don't drink excessively, and drive safely.
Thank you.
Those are the things that are killing us.
Okay. Viewers, you can be part of this discussion. Send in your comments and observations. Use our social media platforms. We stream live on YouTube, Twitter, and Salt TV2 on YouTube. It's another channel. You can follow us. Well, we'll be reading your comments, and we still follow up on the continued incarceration of retired Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye alongside other prisoners, but most especially with this issue of the concern about his health. And the state insists that he has a case to answer, and that is why he was now, this time, brought to a civil court. Comrade Rugarama, you're also a lawyer. You've heard from Muchibi talk about the ambiguity of the ruling, the Supreme Court's ruling, which somehow, in his submission, brought up this whole, the delays in all what we saw. But also the pressure has been too much, especially on relating to Besigye's health condition. But here we are, fresh charges. He has been brought to civil courts as the court ordered, and fresh charges have been preferred against him. Can we say it is justice? And what do you speak? How can you? How do you look at the state's response to the Supreme Court ruling?
First and foremost, I would like to thank my brother Muchibi for ably taking us through the legal journey, right from the Supreme Court's decision which actually was not Besigye'S case, and he brought it out. That was Honorable Michael Kabazuguruka's petition. A lot certainly has been said so far about the decision of the Supreme Court. At first, our own president being very displeased with that decision, and also a number of political leaders and military leaders being displeased with that decision, which, if I'm to talk as a lawyer, I find very healthy, because it gives me confidence that we have got independence of the judiciary, and that it doesn't matter what the political leadership
desires,
wishes, as long as something doesn't make sense in the legal realm, then the judiciary will come up and say the correct thing. I want to take this singular honor to thank once again the bench at the Supreme Court for that decision. Of course, there will always be, my brother here, being a lawyer, knows that there is nothing that is, even Lord Denning, the most celebrated judge of his time, I want to believe that his decisions, if an opportunity arose, would be appealed. Well, honestly, even DIPROC or any other that we want to celebrate. So in the same breath, I want to believe that even where the Supreme Court, in the case of Kabazuguruka, was not so refined, probably maybe they have certain things hanging, it still remains a very good decision. I want to look at this matter of Kizza Besigye, whether he has gotten justice or not, from two dimensions. There is a political angle, but also there is also a legal angle. The challenge which we must accept is that the legal angle will always be anchored in the political armpit. Because at the end of the day, when we have got reluctance on as far as the political will is concerned, even the decisions that are made from the legal arm either will delay, maybe deliberately, and sometimes, because we have seen this happen not just in Uganda or Africa, even in Europe,
because
even
of
in
politics.
America, that certain decisions are not going to be quickly implemented, and courts have pronounced themselves on them simply because the political arm of government is still thinking through some of these things as to whether it is correct or not. Now, we can have a mountain of a debate about some of these things. So as to whether Right Honorable, retired Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye, his co-accused Obed Rutare, and now for the very first time a certain Captain Dennis Ole have gotten justice so far, it is too early to make that decision. What I can say is that when you look at the debate in the public now, and you look at opinion, people who shape public opinion, so far the kind of debate, including the debate we had last night on the front line, you get worried that if, for instance, we can have a seasoned, tested journalist like Andrew Mwenda on such a huge media platform like NBS Frontline, getting out of his way and making the kind of accusations. For instance, by the way, and this is very important, nobody is saying that retired Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye is innocent. No, we are not saying that. It is possible that the charges leveled against him are true. It's very possible. But at the same time, again, looking at the history, you cannot blame those who say that what is so different this time around, because in the past, he was accused of rape. You remember the Chakwa case? And everybody, I remember, I read that judgment, and retired Justice John Bosco Katusi, referring to Madame Kutesa.
It is not even the first time he's being accused of being involved.
No, there are a number of them. I'm just pointing out
treason,
that one. Yes,
acts of treason.
You see, a number of them, and he said that. I think he was, Justice John Bosco Katus was a very interesting judge, because I think in making a mockery of the kind of role that Madame Kutesa played, he said we needed to give an award to this lady, not so much because the kind of evidence she has brought is anything to go by. Actually, he went ahead to say that it is not even enough to convict a chicken thief. I don't know if you have looked at that. You need to look at it. So, you see, when you get that kind of history, you get a sense that there is a section of the population here in Uganda who feel that retired Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye and his co-accused, but mainly retired Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye is not being prosecuted but persecuted. You see, that is the feeling
there's a reason
now. Yes,
to think that Besigye is being persecuted.
Against that kind of. But I have warned myself and I have warned the public that out of the 100 times that somebody has been either falsely accused, this time around, it does not stop the fact that this time around, probably it is true. But you see, we leave that one to courts now.
We leave it to courts.
Yes.
But from the president's statements, his own statements, looks like the president is saying, he already has his own position that Kizza Besigye has a serious case to answer.
Now this is I think my fourth or fifth time coming here, and you Apollo know that I'm NRM. At least you know that. And so many
He's your president.
Yes, he is my president.
Wow.
Like he is the president. Of course, constitutionally, he's the president of everybody. Whether my brother here, Muchibi, likes him or not, he is the president. Whether anybody, even whoever is watching us from, he is our president. Now, the difference is that in my case, he is my president. I'm an NRM member, but I'm going to say this. And this is not the first time I'm saying it. I don't think, speaking for myself, I don't think it is proper for my president to comment on matters in the fashion in which he does, given his position as the president. I think if he waited a little bit and maybe commented after the decision of court, it would make a lot of sense. Because you put the judiciary at crossroads. It is my brother Mchibi who mentioned crossroads. You know, where you put you in an awkward position that now after the president has talked, what are we going to say? But again, I come back to what I said much earlier, that I'm really grateful that even when the president pronounced himself on the matter which was still pending
in the court martial.
Supreme Court.
Supreme Court.
Some weeks before determination, they still went ahead and determined it the way they did.
All right.
So finally, as to whether Kizza Besigye and his co-accused are getting the justice, in my opinion, so far, it is still too early. And as to whether the movements on the part of government are something to raise suspicion or not, I think I will be in position probably when, because an application for bail is certainly going to be made. I'm sure, because he was signing. I saw senior counsel Elias Lukwago actually making great efforts in court to ask the chief magistrate to allow that some of the affidavits are signed. Because probably it would have been a hassle. They would say, no, that has not been talked about, you come to Zera. And he said, no, since we have them here, let them sign. And it was done. I was very happy. I was actually very happy with the ruling of the chief magistrate on all the issues that were raised. Of course, that's my personal opinion, because I think she was conscious enough of the atmosphere, looking at the law, looking at all the politics that is surrounding this matter, and I think the decisions which she made are okay.
Thank you, Comrade Daniel Rugarama. Dr. Rugarama, like I said in the beginning, is a lawyer, but also a Pan-Africanist, the chairman of the Pan-Africanist movement. Richard Baguma, you are concerned that the debates have been Besigye'ized.
The Besigye'ization.
Besigye'ization of the debates. But what can we do? This is
Ugandan radio and TV talk show.
This is the elephant in the room.
And Besigye is just the face anyway.
What is your opinion on the response from the state now, this time? Because there was a lot of pressure. And finally, Besigye is brought to a civil court. Fresh charges slapped against him. Is it justice? Actually, from his side, he decided to end the hunger strike, and that speaks of how possibly he appreciated the position of the state. I don't know what you think.
I don't know if anybody remembers when the now General Muhoozi Kainerugaba, then fresh graduate Muhoozi Kainerugaba from university, became an LDU.
Nottingham, was it?
No, LDU. You know, when he came, he did. I don't remember. There was questions how he is putting on uniform, and then his father explained that he was started off as
LDU.
If anybody remember, you see, the thing about this is that we sometimes, because of time of passage, we tend to not see the connections. And I think probably that was like in 97, because I didn't also get out of university too far away from him. And I remember it was also Parliament, and some of the characters, now same characters. So this script has been with these same characters, me in Parliament, and Besigye, the army as political commissar. But you see now, he is the CDF.
Yeah.
And he is the CDF after a certain document, after a certain process was done, and the document consolidated.
To empower his office.
Do you know the one who was occupying the CDF office, how long he stayed after that document was?
Very few days.
It was about a month.
Yeah. So you see, President Museveni is a long-term. He's a long ranger. So while for you are seated here asking why his son is becoming LDU, and for him he's seeing the son as the commander-in-chief, not the CDF, as the commander-in-chief, CIC. So sometimes when we do not think in long range, we don't see the actions now and relate them to then. Who has stood most frequently and most consistently against President Museveni?
Dr. Besigye.
Absolutely. So we cannot be discussing Dr. Besigye. That's why you see I have repeatedly refused to be drawn into the legal arguments. First, I am a journalist. I'm not a lawyer. Yeah. So I want the legal gymnastics to be with those ones who have studied gymnasm in law. I haven't. But what I also do is observe politics. And I told you, for me, I am a Musevenist in observing politics. I find him a very fascinating political player. So, in my view, and that's what I said the other time, I said, this is a political matter. I have been consistent on this. Every time we come on every of this show, I say, no. I am not going to talk about the legal things. They are the legal minds let them talk. It is a political matter for me. And so I keep looking at it from the lenses
of politics.
I had said the other time, when President Museveni talked strongly about his view on the court before it made a decision, I was convinced that he already knew what the outcome would be. So he was already preparing for the post-court decision. And he was preparing the ground, he was preparing the population, he was preparing the MPs. And you can see it. And he said, this country is not ruled
by judges
or lawyers. Yes. The country is ruled elsewhere. And that elsewhere will get what it wants. That's why I keep saying that. You see, I keep watching and say, but this is a master gorilla. That is his method of work. Doesn't matter whether he's a father, a grandfather, in the army, or in politics, or in region. His entire work method is gorilla method. So, I was in Parliament the day before yesterday. I think that was on Thursday. So I found a few colleagues. I was, as always, advocating for my things. I was asking the Minister of Finance and Parliament, why have you spent 7 years without increasing, even a single time, taxes on any tobacco product? Yet you increase water, milk, fuel. Why? What is so essential about it? And I phoned my colleagues and I asked them, because I knew they had traveled out of the country. I said, why are you guys here? They said we had to cancel our trip.
Yeah.
Because we were all told in the caucus, we must be here. Doesn't matter whether you are in Russia, you must come back. The ground is set.
To re-empower the court martial.
To just go and put a law that the Supreme Court justice will not again manipulate. So, I would not be surprised if after the law, Dr. Besigye is recharged.
Again in the court martial.
In the court martial.
Probably some information there, my brother.
Yes.
I think I would advise my president and my government to restrain itself on that, because that is going to send a very bad message and equally re-echo those voices that have always suspected us of not respecting the rule.
Comrade Rugama will get there, because we will have to respond to a question of whether this is Kizza Besigye is the last man to be tried the last civilian to be tried in the court martial, and if at all this is the end of civilians being tried in the military courts. We'll get there. Viewers, you can be part of this discussion. Send in your comments and observations. You can use the number 0701 609906. Send your comments on WhatsApp and SMS. Utilize those two platforms only and we'll get your comments and read them on air. Make them brief, precise, and to the point. We are still looking at the state's response to the pressure to release Dr. Kizza Besigye, but he's still under incarceration despite concerns about his health. But again, fresh charges of treason have been slapped against him together with the co-accused, and the questions remain on how this whole matter will be handled. But I think from you,
no,
Richard.
But you see,
Richard.
You see, Apollo.
First
of all,
okay,
we don't know whether, and also taking our history, whether Dr. Besigye is guilty.
We don't know.
Don't know.
We don't know if he is not guilty.
Yeah.
But we also don't know whether the truth has been mixed with lies.
Yeah, but we also know
that there are some actions he took, but they are being exaggerated. That's also a possibility. That there may have been conversations that he had that may be contextualized to what is. So this is a political contestation.
Oh.
And you get, so what you do is the games are played around, one, the courts, it's one of the theaters.
Okay.
Two, the media,
yeah,
including social media. And three, behind the scenes.
I get your point, Richard. Yes. And it has been also it had also been making rounds in circles out there. People who think that this cannot be sorted in courts of law. The issue of Besigye cannot be sorted in the courts of law or with the legal gymnastics you're talking about. And we'll get to that. But quickly, Richard, in just one comment, talk about the president's way of communicating on these matters. I think Comrade Rugama talked about it as a concern to him. The president, on matters that are sensitive as the Supreme Court case, matters that are so sensitive as how we've seen the issue of Kizza Besigye's health condition, but the president communicates in such a way. And to be specific on Dr. Kizza Besigye's health, the president said Kizza Besigye he called it what, blackmail? I think yes, I'll find the data. Unprincipled blackmail to solicit sympathy from the public. And on such a matter, I don't know what your opinion is as a communicator, as an expert.
No, you see, me, I don't bring my communication things here. I have told you in my thinking, I think my president is convinced that you can lead this country without a Supreme Court.
Oh.
You can still have the country running without a Supreme Court.
So
I've told you that a lot of people are clerks.
What do you mean?
Yeah,
clerks?
The other time I was telling you that, you see, we're here talking Governor Bank of Uganda. You spent 3 years without the government and the central bank is running. Yes. So this is the person you are dealing with. You see, I keep saying that sometimes when you say these things, you risk annoying people. But that's the person you are dealing with. A governor of the bank or central bank is a crack. So you can keep that person not there. And he runs the country. So the country can run without these people who put on, you know how he describes them, who put on kangabana, who put on these things which scare children.
The wigs.
Yes, you can run the country without having them there. And the country will be running. So that's if you read the mind frame of the person you are dealing with, then you know that the comments he's making, you are reading.
But he speaks about rule of law and democracy in this country.
Yeah, that's
to
why.
Be thriving.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So why? It is in certain circumstances that he comes out in a certain way. Otherwise, you will learn a mwana cover. Your child is crying, you give them mwana cover because that's what they want. So when you see this mind frame, then you have to understand Besigye'S actions, because Besigye has been dealing with this state of mind frame to the point that at a very large risk he wrote. You see, by the time he sat down to write in 1999, he must have been voicing his frustration in different fora for a time.
Being ignored.
So he has read this mindset differently. He has different lenses, and therefore his actions. So that's why he decides, I will be hungry, I will come with my mouth and shaking and what? I will probably die here, but I will push this.
Did he win?
Then Haji Obed is here meanwhile eating his food. Yeah. But you see, Haji Obed fasts. As a Muslim, he fasts. But this time,
I asked from other circles, they think that the state yielded to pressure.
But how? Where is Dr. Besigye?
You could read the headline somewhere and you see government Pondosi.
Where is Dr. Besigye? So why do you tell me that the people who captured him, Bapondosi, so easy?
Thank you
for me.
Thank you so much, Comrade Ndugu Baguma, and I'll be actually reading those messages. Keep them coming in. I'll be reading them. But Muchibi, Council Muchibi, going forward, now that the case is in a civil court, and give us your view on the direction this case is taking, because I think it is it Baguma who talked about it? He even said it could also bounce back to the court martial. I don't know what your mind thinks about this.
Okay. Thank you so much. One, I must say that for now 2 decades, Dr. Besigye has been in court for several charges. No single case has the state won against Besigye for 2 decades. You need now to ask yourself, why was the strategy changing from civil court to court martial? This is the first of its kind for him to the court martial. He has for 2 decades, 20 years, been prosecuted on several counts. Most of them are dismissed, others are abandoned, others are withdrawn, etc. There has never been a conviction against him for 2 decades. That is in civil courts. I can now tell...
Let me actually get it from you before you proceed, but don't forget where you stopped from. In those all cases that either dismissed or withdrawn, a state withdraws interest, do we lose money? Do we pay those lawyers and all that? I'm now speaking like a taxpayer.
Of course, any case that is in court involves costs on the part of the state, right from the date of carrying out investigations, bringing witnesses to court, well knowing that they are going to testify nothing. You are paying prosecutors, state attorneys. There is a big budget on it. And cases of Besigye nature, a lot of investment has to be put on it, because all the public eyes are on such a case. So you must justify why you are prosecuting. Whether it is a political prosecution or a real prosecution, you must qualify.
So taxpayers have been footing the bill.
That is it.
Proceed.
Security is on higher.
Yes. You can see what happened yesterday in Nakawa. You could think we were in a war zone at the court. The security.
So tell me, is a frail Besigye such a flight risk? Why does the deployment be like that?
It's not
really?
Okay,
Yes.
proceed and tell us.
Thank you. So I was saying, for me,
where do you think this case, the direction is?
Yes, I was understanding why the direction now from civil court to court-martial, the first of its kind, and how the state is very much disappointed by losing the prosecution in the court-martial, to the level that now the fight is we must reinstate the court-martial by amending the
The law.
PDF Act. That's why the fears of Richard and the others are that why this so fast action to have, even if the Supreme Court has said it is unconstitutional, you are running so fast to ensure that you bring
reconstitute
to bring
the court-martial.
Because in the court-martial you can easily secure a conviction you want.
Oh.
As the Supreme Court decision was clearly saying, the panel itself, none of them is knowledgeable in the law. They are relying on advice of the judge advocate who was also misadvising. And his advice is not supposed to be the ruling of the court, but they just adopt it as the ruling of the the court. So there's high risks when you want to really convict somebody in the court-martial. It is very easy, unlike civil courts. And what we are saying is that I must make this clear, is that the presumption of innocence still prevails. And that's why we are so worried, like my colleague said, doctor here, the likes of Mwenda coming out and saying that so-and-so committed this. We are at a level where even disclosure has not been done.
Yeah.
How are such people privy to the information, which is still under investigation?
Thank you so much, Paul Muchibi and the panel, Richard Baguma Tinkasimire and Dr. Daniel Rugalama. We'll be going for a short break. When we return, we'll continue to interrogate the circumstances around the case against retired Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye and the co-accused, and responding to questions as to whether this is the end of the general court-martial, trying civilians. Do really the Besigye lawyers team still have a lot of work to do, or it is justice to Dr. Besigye? Let's go for a break. When we return, the dialogue takes you into the next hour. Let's go for a break and return after this short while. Welcome from the break. This is the dialogue on Soul TV. My name is Prince Apollo. On the panel this morning is Richard Baguma Tinkasimire, communication expert. Muchibi Paul is an advocate, but also a lecturer of law at Makerere University Law Development Center. Comrade Rugalama Daniel is a Pan-Africanist, but also a practicing lawyer. We are still interrogating the circumstances around Besigye's detention, but also the state's response to the Supreme Court's ruling, having now seen Dr. Besigye in a civil court. But what comes next? What lies ahead for the General Court-Martial as the NRM Parliamentary Caucus convenes to, of course, put heads together to amend and align it with the Supreme Court's orders? Well, we ask questions whether Dr. Kizza Besigye has received justice now that he's in civil courts, or we ask he is the last person to face the court-martial, a civilian to face the court-martial. And Richard Baguma, I don't know what you think before I come back to Comrade Rugalama.
No, I don't think he's the last.
Yeah.
No, I think the court-martial is going to be reconstructed very quickly. Very quickly.
Very quickly.
Yeah, I think it's going to be reconstructed. And we will be going there. I don't know if you guys have looked at some of the bit of the draft. some of the provisions. We will all be, we will be, the other time we were maybe a little less candidates. We will be now more like the candidates.
Sure.
For the court-martial.
One of the resolutions in the NRM caucus yesterday was that the court-martial will have mandate to try civilians, but if they have lost or they are dissatisfied with the decision, they'll have room to appeal to the civil courts.
Yes. Because the president has been very firm that the court-martial is subordinate to the civilian courts. You see, the value of the court martial sometimes, especially in political dispensation. You see, there is the military. There's a lot of value, by the way, in very firm disciplinary mechanisms in the army, with the armed guys. That there is every case for this very strong, very firm disciplinary measures in the army. And the people who have instruments of violence and coercion, you really need to keep those ones in check. But it also, in this case, has been serving a political purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah. You see, if, for example, you are going into 2026, and I think you are going to be problematic, then it is only strategic for me to put you in the court martial up to November 2025 and give you 3 months to go to.
What makes it much more effective than the civil courts? Is it the...
Because in my view, it is the standard of English. I call it English. Legalism, you know how I say that they speak English. For me, I think it is the standard of English. Here, the English is more, the other one is Swahili.
Hey.
So if you are Aaron Chiza, by the way, is the person I think we should talk about. I think he's one of the most interesting detainees we have in this country. I think his detention is going to be subject to a lot of English in class. These people who go to class, the ones who run. I think there's going to be a lot of English, and the name Chiza will be cited. That's what they call it, citing. So there, the standard of English in the civilian court is higher in making a decision. You finish.
Do we hear Swahili in those courts?
No, I'm using this figuratively. I'm not
figuratively. I think Comrade Apple, my senior brother.
Because before you come in, I presume that this time round, the panel of the chairman and his team will no longer be there. We will see now people in robes and
will they be soldiers or not?
No, interestingly, we have got professional lawyers in UPDF, and quite a good number of them, our colleagues, and you cannot take anything away from them. They passed very well. They just chose to join the army. So, and some of them are very, very senior. They are colonels. You know. So the constitution, the way the courts have been constituted, and probably all the previous chairpersons, it's interesting that none of them has been with the legal background, and that has been extremely challenging. And like my brother Chief said here, apart from the chief judge, whose advice,
judge advocate,
whose advice is unfortunately taken to be the ruling of that court. Because when you look at the case of, for instance, our brother Aaron Chiza, I mean, anything bad that can be talked about,
the court martial
that the court martial has done was done in the case of Chiza Aaron. Why? To the extent that you convict and sentence somebody to a term that is not prescribed in your own laws. Where do you get that? So it's not just, forget about what our brother Medad Segona was saying, that there was a comment that he raised the comment that so and so is not robbed, and there was like the chairman of the court martial then was like, you are all robbers, not understanding some of these simple legal jargons. But to have,
he was speaking.
Referring
to the robes.
Exactly. And the other one thought he was talking about robbers. So you can imagine that degree of ignorance. And when I say ignorance, I'm not abusing anybody. We are all ignorant to a certain extent, because you cannot be expert on everything. But that notwithstanding, let me just comment something about Aaron Chiza's conviction and sentencing. You see, it's unheard of. How do you If they say you can only sentence up to 3 months, I think, is the highest.
That was
contempt.
For contempt in the court, formally the court martial. And for you say, I'm giving you. Where do you get that?
I told you
It's not just bad; it is stinking.
So it was important that the operations and the constitution, how it is constituted, should be reviewed. And overhauled.
That's why you see the Supreme Court came up with the decision, because indeed, like the Chief Justice said, what has been done or used to be done in the court martial is akin to taking a lawyer to Murago Heart Institute. And you say you operate on this. How? Where do you start from and
now,
where do you end?
From the few snippets of the proposals we've had, and your two colleagues brought up some few of them, looks like it will now come much more strong and the general court martial.
That's why I said
will bounce back stronger and more.
I remember I interrupted my senior brother when he was submitting.
Yeah, because if you check, I think if you go to Kavere right now, it's cordoned off again.
There are no headquarters.
There are no headquarters around there.
You see, my worry is,
then you are going to take for the search warrant.
Yeah, nobody should take the population to be stupid. No, interestingly, by the way, even the common man, they out there, although sometimes they do things that may lead you to question their understanding of some of these basic things, like making a decision as far as voting is concerned, and he takes a piece of soap, some little money, and then he gives you a vote. But in the mix of all these things, the 1 inch out there, the levels of poverty notwithstanding, they understand some of these things, and we shouldn't take them for granted. They
are conscious about what is happening.
And that is why I'm warning my government. I'm saying, you see, when you quicken the process, the way they are doing, and then to make matters worse, you even attempt, or for that matter, actually actualize taking back and charging Chizabe, whom you have already charged, by the way. You have already charged in the civil courts. Now, you even attempt to take him back to the court martial. Nothing has ever been a success when it is weaponized. Okay. I want to tell you that, for instance, America ran a risk of weaponizing the dollar. You can see where they are going now. American judicial system, my brother here will bear me witness. The American judicial system, in as far as the black community is concerned, is highly weaponized. That they have got an unwritten rule whereby a majority of male youth are subjected to their so-called judicial system and incarcerated. America has got the highest
the Guantanamo
rate. America has got the high. Look, forget about China, whom they claim are not democratic. The America has got the highest rate of male youth incarceration in the whole world. But you can see the ripple effects now. That because of that, you are talking about the Guantanamo Bay. Do you know what they do there? On that small island, people who are dumped there, gross abuse of human rights. When I talk like I say, Pan-African, it's just, these are facts. You come and contradict me if I'm lying. So, at the end of the day, I wouldn't want my government to weaponize
the general court martial.
General court martial, or for that matter, courts. They should not do that. And also to recognize that let us not suffer from our own success.
Yeah, true.
NRM has done a great deal in civically, at least attempting to civically make the people aware. If we have emancipated the people to enable them appreciate the issues within the country, we shouldn't be the ones at the same time to think that they do not understand and start doing things which will make us look ugly.
You see, it is the direction you're taking now. The state is taking.
I'm constrained, but I hope what my brothers have pointed out is not true.
You hope it's not true. I need to read the comments from our viewers. Keep those comments coming in. I want Muchibi to conclude. He had not concluded on what he thinks is the direction this whole case is taking.
There are two critical things I don't think NRM caucus is really following critically. If you read the judgments of Justice Monica Mugenyi, Justice Catherine Bamugemere, and Justice Elizabeth Musoke, in the Attorney General Kabaziroga case, they bring out two fundamental issues that cannot be addressed by this rushed amendment. One, the first question they asked, to whom does the military report?
The High Command.
You see? You have a court martial whose panel is military what? Command. To whom do they report to? And who is the complainant to the court? And the question they were raising is, can you have natural justice in such a setting? It's not all about saying, let us amend the law and say you can try civilians here, then later they can appeal. No, the composition of the court is very critical. Who is supposed to sit on the panel? Must he be a military man? Two, how are they appointed to sit on that court? You can see how judges are appointed in civil courts. There is a constitutional body, the judicial service.
Information, assuming, and this is the element of weaponization.
I actually wanted him to conclude his point. Then
there was something that will help him. Our worry is weaponization of some of these institutions. Assuming you reintroduce the court martial again, and because you have now put in UPDF Act, you have put there like a safety pin that, look, you can appeal to civilian courts, but you make a case drag for 15 years.
Conclude, please.
Yes. I was saying that in civil courts, the way judges are appointed is clear. Whereas we have
through the
also,
Judicial Service Commission.
Judicial Service Commission, which is a constitutional body who appoints the judges that are sitting on the court martial, who appoints them, and who is the complainant to that court. Do you expect justice to be there? The complainant is you appointing what? Authority. That is just a kangaroo court. It cannot work. And let me tell you this, the speed they are running to, it is going to even be a worse amendment. And it is going to go back to Constitutional Court for challenging.
So you don't expect
nothing is going to come out.
A better version of the General Court martial.
There is nothing, and that's what I'm saying. They have not sat down to appreciate the decision of the court.
And let them not rush it.
Recommendations.
I agree with Muchibi. Let them not rush it. Because let me tell you, the kind of awareness we have in our legal fraternity, especially with the radical bar of my brother Semakade Isaac,
who is now out of the country.
He will come back. He's on official duties.
Yes.
I can assure you that you rush these amendments,
no mistakes.
They are going to go back and challenge the very same amendments. And as long as we still have the kind of court that we have, they will be challenged.
But now, if you say the amendments will be challenged, and here we have the head of state making his position clear that now it is quick trial. We want quick trial, and it seems like you're saying there is a possibility of taking back Besigye to the court martial. Then I now believe that Besigye's lawyers must have a lot of work to do. I don't know what you think, Muchibi.
True, and this is not being done for only Besigye. It is for all Ugandans, to be honest, because we are all potential candidates for that court martial.
Okay.
If you open it to civilians,
and with the amendments, the ease will be even more.
And that's why we are careful when we are debating Yaporo. You must have realized. You see, and this, by the way, is we are not just praising ourselves, some of us, but I think it is extremely important in life to be fair to people who are listening to you and looking at you, not simply because you are NRM. To blanketly come sit in this comfortable chair, take a cup of coffee, and say, no, everything is okay. No.
Okay.
If it is wrong, I will say it is wrong, say that we correct ourselves.
Okay.
Yeah, but you see,
let me read the messages.
You see, Apollo, my challenge always is that we take this to the people. No, the people have been very clear many times. They are very clever.
Where are the people?
These people who watch us.
Yeah.
They are very clever. They are very clever. The challenge is not there. The challenge is these people who hold the instruments of coercion and therefore power. The one who have the levers. That is what we are dealing with. So the caucus, just think about the MPs. By this, if these amendments go the way they are being proposed, they are among the closest to be taken to court martial. They will be among the very closest people.
Really?
Yes, true.
To go to court martial.
History has it.
You see,
but they are rushing to pass it.
Yes, what our brother Aporo should also remember, so a wrong thing is a wrong thing. And it doesn't matter the amount of coating you put on it, it can never be correct. Some of these defects are incurable. In law, we have got incurable and curable defects. Now, some of these things are incurable.
That were pointed out by the Supreme Court.
Yes, let me tell you that remember a time when we were very busy. That was at 105 about the was it term limits? The term limits.
205.
Now, there is a group of MPs who went on the floor of parliament and said, my constituent has sent me to, and yet they never consulted anybody. Did they come back?
Okay, let me read the comments. And viewers, it's your time to speak. Good morning, Mr. Apollo and the panel. My question to the legal minds is how would the transfer of files from court martial to civil courts would have been handled? Because that's where the whole case loses sense of direction. To me, the Supreme Court was simply looking at Major Honorable Kabaziguruka's case, forgetting there were other fresh charges in court martial, hence not giving direction of transfer. So to me, I seek guidance from the land colleagues on how the process would have been handled to avoid being politicized. Abel Keru Akampumuza, an ardent viewer, thank you so much for watching. Muchibi, I request you to mark that. You will respond. How best
the transfer
would do the transfer have been done? Hello, Soul TV. Good morning. Law is funny. Looking at the global current affairs with UN and ICC helpless, the reality is always some group holds the power beyond government institutions. Museveni reflects the global reality in terms of power control. Of course, hunger strike is a weapon for high-profile politicians when in serious trouble. Osbat in Mutungo. I think he has a point there. Hunger strike, Kizza Besigye's hunger strike somehow made him score to some level, I hope. I have seen very ill prisoners in hospital with handcuffs. What's so special with Besigye? He's proposing, he or she, I'm not sure whether he or she, he's proposing Besigye would be allowed to go to a hospital, but on handcuffs, if it's necessary. I think.
Is that his point? Or he's saying that Kizza Besigye, even when he is wheeled into court, he should be on handcuffs. Let's understand his point anyway.
Apollo,
the person has asked you a question.
Yeah.
So it is how you interpret it.
Yeah.
Because the person has no chance to explain.
Perhaps you need to send another message and clarify on what exactly you wanted us to respond to. Apollo, this is Alexander from Balala. Let the nation leave courts of law to do their work rather than trying to give order to courts to release him. Why is it that they are not asking what he did, but very busy asking to be released? I also wanted to see the Kenyan parliament discussing about Besigye to be released. Is Kenyan parliament part of Uganda's district? Thank you.
We are in the East African community.
And this is President Museveni's argument, I think. He's asking, why are you not asking about what Dr. Kizza Besigye did or was intending to do? No, instead of asking for his release.
Whatever he did, by giving him bail, for instance, or by him accessing medical treatment, it does not absolve him from standing trial. So still, we are safe.
Okay. We are still reading the messages from the viewers, and he says, "Morning, Apollo. I am Annette, Arsenal blood in Kamuli. Byonna babikole abaagala obuyinza n'ababulina. We Ugandans tetuliddamu kuyiwa musaayi. Besigye weewumuzeeko." That's somehow a strong message there, but it's an opinion. Thank you for watching. Okay. He says, yes, this is Abel Akampumuza again. Good morning, Apollo. Get for us a sign language translator. My friend here is always interested in your programs, but when we are not around, he suffers a lot. Oh, sorry. Uganda needs prayers, otherwise our constitution has been damaged by the few for their own favors. Greetings to all. James in Imbale. Thank you so much, James, and your proposal will be considered. But thank you so much for watching, and we will work out on that. And I expect more messages coming in this last segment, because we only have like 30 minutes to go. Richard, I don't know.
No, from the comments. I do not think that a court martial or a legal disciplinary mechanism in the army is unique to Uganda. No, I think armies have court martials,
yes.
Because otherwise the word court martial wouldn't exist.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So I think we have them. So I think what we are dealing with, for me, is the politics.
Is it the politics, or it is this desire to have civilians in military courts, which people like Muchibi, the lawyers, are saying it's not right, it's not fair?
Yeah, but why are they going there? What are they being told they are doing? They are being told that they want to take political power. What is treason? Or even misprision? Misprision is you want to take power. That is it. Or you are hiding. You know the one who wants to take power and you are hiding the information. That's what
you want to take power using illegal means.
Because the one who is in power right now
is it true,
is the
Richard?
one who is illegal.
And I would want to also hear from Muchibi about this. Is it true that it is only in Uganda where civilians are tried in military courts?
I don't know. What I know is that our courts, what we are talking about, is that the other one is saying you want to take power from me. The way you want to take it is illegal. Because I'm the one now who is there. Don't ask me how I got it. When I get it and I am there, because when I got it, you said I got it illegal. But when I go now I am there, I have become legal.
Legal notice number
1. Thank you. And you want to take it. And I'm saying the easiest way to deal with you is not to go to these English speakers. I used to go to the Swahili speakers. That, in my view, is what we are talking about.
Muchibi,
Okay.
Is it true that it is only in Uganda where we have civilians being tried in military courts?
No, I'm going to respond to that, but there was an earlier question in the
Transfer.
comments, the transfer of files, which is a very critical question, and I thank the person who raised it. The question is, how would it have been done? And that's where I started from when we had just started the show, that the Supreme Court made a decision of give and take, which had also found itself in a mess. You cannot declare something unconstitutional. Then you say, but let us transfer it from where it has been unconstitutional to somewhere else. The effect of unconstitutionality under Article 137 of the Constitution is clear. The orders, the declaration, once you declare, everything becomes a nullity. That's why it will have ended. Then thereafter, if you think there are people who are being tried before the court martial, and they still have charges to answer, commence a new process to have them produced before what? Civil courts. That was the best way to do it. Otherwise, that pronouncement by the Supreme Court was very disappointing, and is what is causing all this what? Confusion. That is one. Two, the question you asked, is it only in Uganda where court martials incidentally have been running benchmarking study on operation of court martials globally. And the one I can talk with the IBS standards, what they are talking about this, they are saying court martials can exist, but they have to be clearly defined and regulated their mandate. And if you look survey through countries that have court martials, one, they either exist as disciplinary committees for servicemen.
Tribunals.
Yes, that is one. Two, others have already said that they can exist, but they cannot try civilians there. You get it? Others have said if the court martial is to operate, there must be a very clear code under which it administers justice consonant to natural justice done by civil courts, so that it subjects the same standards to servicemen, and if at all it has civilians there, it also subjects the same what? Standards. And that has been the biggest question. Justice Catherine Bamgemere, in her decision in the Kabazaguruka Supreme Court decision, traced the history of court martials from the Roman Empire. And actually, to her analysis was that this was being used as a political tool back to Richard, that those in power wanted to suppress opponents. And the only easy way to suppress them, take them to the court you have dominion over, not a court which will question liberties and what have you. And that there is still that umbrella today in most of the court martials that are still existing. And I'm happy to say that the Supreme Court pointed out all those. And we're saying, as doctors said, the cure is we needed a process of about 5 to 10 years to streamline this before you rush this amendment.
So it is true the court martial had been weaponized to sort political scores.
That is it.
Okay. There is a statement I pick from President Museveni's letter. If you want a stable country, the more correct question should be naye Besigye bamukwatira ki? If you want a stable country, meaning this now goes back to the stability and the security of this country. Doesn't that speak about the seriousness, like it is pointed out in the president's letter, that this is a serious offense, this is a serious issue we are dealing with? But anyway, and as we wind up, you talked about this issue being political.
Yeah, you see, what happens in
and we want to solve a political problem. I mean through legal means.
No, of course the two in majority of our jurisdictions have always gone together. Where you have got political will majority of the decisions or the legal processes have always gone well. You see, even if, by the way, we wanted to have retired Colonel Dr. Besigye and his co-accused tried, and even if their crimes are as serious as we have had them being read out, you must try somebody who is alive. You see, what with especially the record of NRM having been pro-people right from the bush. You remember the matter of Kezron in the bush, where Jim was making arguments that, look, Kezron, the death was as a consequence of the alcohol in the man. He didn't intend to kill anybody. And Yoweri Kaguta Museveni was like, look, you are not going to take us into that circus.
How can we
man died
condemn alcohol?
Yes. But as you can see, of course, from the legal point of view, probably Jim was correct, because you can drink to a point whereby you do certain things when you are not in your true mental faculties. But what the point we are making here is really that one, those accusations leveled against Dr. Besigye and his co-accused may as well be correct. But let the due process of the law be seen to be done. Okay. Such that we do not have a situation whereby we begin doubting that isn't this persecution rather than prosecution? Let it look like this is real, this is genuine. And I can assure you that when we do it in a proper manner, there will be no second thoughts from anybody.
No, that is what I read from the president's statements. It is as if he's saying these courts, these civil courts, cannot handle this matter. This is a serious offense of grave nature, actually touches the stability of the country. This is so huge. The civil courts cannot handle it.
No, then I think our president will be advised to revisit that position, if that is the correct position that you are putting forward. Because the truth of the matter is that we have got a history where our own civil courts have handled. There's nothing new.
Treason. It isn't even in the penal code.
There's nothing new, and they have done very well. So in this particular case, I want to call upon my government to ensure that the public and the people whom they have emancipated from the ignorance, who are now able to discern some of these things, don't hold them in contempt. To think that what they are doing is persecution rather than prosecution. And let's observe the rights of everybody, including a man like Dr. Besigye and his co-accused, who are accused of such heinous crimes, and disregard some of the statements that were made by our colleagues and senior journalists like Andrew Mwenda. They are not useful.
Thank you. Apollo, I want to understand what would you call what happened at NUP headquarters at Kavure about a parade that was organized and inspected by the NUP party president chanting Ame songs. I'm really happy with the submission of the panel, and so open-minded. It is so open-minded and on point. How I wish, okay, I find Muchivi and okay, to take me in the last year. Okay, I am Abela Kampumuza. I think he's a student of law, and he admires your submissions. Good afternoon, fellow countrymen and women. Was the National Consultative Forum for Political Parties and Organizations, we as the National Consultative Forum and organization had requested that we seek the audience of the Attorney General to address the legal position of the arrest of Dr. Kizza Besigye, so that we can approach the issue from the informed perspective. Uganda today must be helped to stop or prevent any kind of conflict that would result into violence through national dialogue. Uganda needs to be informed of the background of this arrest and others before Ugandans raise to demonstrate that would result into more arrests and deaths. And this will affect all other aspects of life. Stella Nambuya, thank you so much. And it's a long message, but thank you so much for watching. My party NRM is out of point here. Why do we rush to amend the constitution because of it? Does it mean government doesn't trust civil courts? Peter Nangoti in Bududa, he says this is political. And on the president's question, the prosecution side will lay evidence. However, this doesn't deny to him bail. Anyway, that's it, gentlemen. We will have to wind up. We still have like now 10 minutes. But why that issues of Besigye and government is always sounding so much in the time of elections? Besigye, he's targeting time of campaign. You gentlemen, you must be picking some issues from Nice Show, Brother Apollo. Thank you so much. He's Sacham Kama Ministries. Thank you so much. And I pick from these messages someone talking about the militarization that is happening in this country. He talks about what happened at NUP headquarters, people putting on military-like uniforms and doing what they did. Muchibi, doesn't those somehow also, radicalize the population and hence the court-martial to handle these issues?
You see, we don't want to live in a situation of speculations when we have a clear due process. My brother, Dr. Alian, was talking about intelligence. The state has all the intelligence it can use in managing some of these events. Otherwise, if we just wake up and say somebody is dressed like a military man, so he must be armed and doing something wrong, we kill the due processes. We are going to make people still have freedom to associate, freedom to assemble. That is constitutionally guaranteed, much as there are restrictions. So work within the restrictions, do fact-finding, and then prosecute the culprits. Otherwise, we are going to be in a situation where we start speculating. So-and-so is doing this, let's go and condone the press and do what? And we are going into a situation of elections, political elections. That creates more suspicion. Actually, one viewer has mentioned.
Yes.
One viewer
but why is it that Besigye's predicament come during on-year elections?
Incidentally, Besigye did not arrest himself. He was arrested. And this is the state causing all this. And we're saying the state has all built its opponents and given them momentum. Because who knew even about Besigye's plan until we heard about the abduction? That goes also to the earlier post you talked about where Kenyans are planning a demonstration out there, and somebody is asking, why are Kenyans concerned about Ugandan events? They're raising a very fundamental question, is why is Kenya becoming an abduction center? Because that's where the abduction started from. And without following proper extradition laws, the man is brought back here, put in inside, taken to court-martial, and what have you. So Kenyans are questioning also their government. Why is Kenya being used as a center of abductions? Because it is not the first of its own. Otherwise, what we are seeing all is a political peak, that this is the time we are saying. Some will interpret it the way, is it the state trying to build Besigye, or trying to tell us that Besigye, we should frustrate him from coming by putting him inside? Because the court-martial, once it sentences you, leave along what Richard said, that they may release you in November 2025. Forget. You'll be there until elections are over. Even if you are challenging the decision, you'll still be serving. So sometimes the state causes this stampede. You arrest a man. What do you expect him to do? To defend himself. And that is what is actually what doing. For us, we're only saying that anything is possible, but let's follow the due process. Because tomorrow we are also going to be victims If there is no due process, we are going to be in the same situation.
Okay, Richard, how can this issue of Besigye and the court choose it? Okay, we talk about Besigye because he's a prominent figure. Be handled effectively, because like you said, this is more of a political matter, not a legal issue. How do you think should it be handled?
Yeah, so there are two things. There is my wish. Yeah, but you see, my wishes, maybe I can share them. That we need to have deep, but also relatively honest. And I know honesty and truth are the first things that get sacrificed in contestation of politics and war. But to have deep and relatively honest conversations, dialogue. We must have a process.
Somebody talked about dialogue.
We must have a process of deep, quite structured and inclusive national dialogue. That's my wish. Now you're talking about my wish. But you see, I don't front my wish when I come here. I talk about my analysis, and I keep challenging you. I say, we are going to come back here, and you will challenge me, you'll bring the recording. You see, Besigye must be held. Yeah, you can do all your legal gymnastics. He must be held.
In custody?
Absolutely. So
why must he?
That's not my wish.
Oh.
I don't want, you see, it must be understood that when you ask me to be an analyst, in my own analysis, he must be held.
He poses
all the legal gymnastics,
because he poses a greater threat.
Absolutely.
To power, to authority.
Absolutely. Yes. He must be held.
At his age,
noble group.
Actually, people have been asking, at his age, after all the struggles he has gone through.
Mandela? What are you talking about age?
Much younger.
Much younger? Are you sure?
Yeah, Mandela started at a younger age.
Started. Also, Besigye just started at a much younger age than him. Same age as Mandela. At what time was Besigye was the minister at 29? Wasn't he? So yes, so he was young.
Your colleague Mwenda speaks about Besigye trying to cause mayhem to this country.
Yeah, but you see, that's what I'm telling you. So the ones who Mwenda might be picking information from will hold Besigye.
Oh.
If that is what they know, and that is what they know as the truth, whether true or not, they will hold it. So we can have my wishes of a national dialogue, we can have my sentiments of, I don't know what, but so that's my analysis. Unfortunate as it may sound for some people, because it is a serious political contestation. There is so much at stake. Power. There is so much at stake. We have, you see, we have a transition that has been going on. I told you. For me, the action is starting from 1997. But now it becomes even closer to climax.
Yeah.
To climax. It has been happening, but it comes closer. So the stakes become highest.
Oh.
Yeah, you see, when a rocket takes off as it approaches to go into, gets out of the atmosphere and goes into the stratosphere. Yes. So that's where we are.
That's where we are.
Yes. So once you agree with me, then you know that what is happening is not strange, and it will continue to happen until the ones who have more power dominate the other, because that's what it is.
We only have 4 minutes, and your closing remarks. Let me start with you, Richard.
Yeah, you see, for me, if you are Ugandan or you live in Uganda, you need to keep your mind open, to brace yourself, to keep your mind open, that a spillover, let me be very kind with my words, that a spillover can happen, and it can spill also to you.
Oh.
It can find you where you are. So you must take keen interest and be alert.
So you anticipate trouble?
We have been having trouble. Ask Besigye, he's in trouble. So I'm saying it can engulf Muchibi very quickly. That's what I'm saying. Or Garama. That's what I'm saying.
Muchibi, your closing remarks?
Thank you so much.
Muchibi.
Thank you so much, Apollo. Maybe before I forget, thank you, Abel, for your contribution and appreciation. One, I must state that if we are really building rule of land good governance, we need to put ourselves in order. The Supreme Court decision was delivered on 31st January. It is not even a month. An amendment is already being what? Tabled before Parliament. Yet the proposals for establishing a proper court martial requires an elaborate and consultative process, which has not even been done at all. So I
would think that would be good for effective and speedy trial for those actually who are already in prison or in detention through the general court martial, if the process is speeded up.
No, their liberty is not going to be restored by reconstituting a court martial. The court has already told you take their cases to the civil courts. Those ones are already in what? Existence. So why do you rush?
Make your closing remarks.
My appeal to the government and to the state generally is that let us not rush this process of what? Amendment. It is going to cost again a taxpayer money going back. Going back to the court and again challenge. And in the process of challenging, other people's rights are going to be violated. So let us really learn something because it has taken a lot of time to reach to this decision.
Thank you so much, Council Muchibi and Comrade Rugarama. Just 1 minute, please.
I regret to observe that we have very important officers in respective offices making comments on the matter obtaining in courts concerning retired Colonel Dr. Besigye, and their comments may have far-reaching impact on the progress and the final determination of the fate of
including your president?
And I didn't say that. And whatever happens therefore, I think going forward, I call upon those people to restrain themselves as we follow the due process. Of the law.
Thank you so much, our viewers. Thank you so much for the comments and observations. I thank my panel. Richard Baguma, thank you so much for making it. Council Muchibi, it's a pleasure having you for the first time on the dialogue. And your submissions have been very, very informative and pregnant. Council Comrade Daniel, thank you so much. And to the production team, thank you so much. Thank you, thank you. Until next Saturday, we wish you the best. God bless you and God bless Uganda.